The Ball Lightning Sorcerer build is definitely good for the new endgame in Diablo 4 Abattoir of Zir. With some tweaks in the previous build, I'm so far completing the tier 10 dungeon. The new Tears of Blood glyph will give us a lot of damage multiplier as we level it. In the video clip, you can see this build completed the different tiers of the dungeons under tier 10 easily. You will feel the damage output and the play is very smooth. After tier 10, due to the mob's HP scaling, you will feel hitting a wall in terms of making any progress. I will share what changes I have made and talk about my thought of going for higher tiers. For the helmet, I was lucky enough to find a shackle, so this will give us some useful stats like resource generation cooldown. You also get a lot of damage reduction and plus 4 ranks to all of the skills, which is pretty decent. But if you don't have this shackle helmet, it is okay to use a regular helmet like this. Look for total armor, maximum life, and cooldown. This will be totally fine. For the chest, I'm using a regular one focusing on the defense. Look for total armor, damage reduction from close or distance, and also damage reduction from burning enemies. For the aspect, I'm using Everliving. This will give us 25% less damage from crowd control enemies and also vulnerable enemies, which are all the way happening during the fight. For higher tier dungeons, I think we will be lacking some of the offense if we're using a chest like this. One good option is to use the Remnant of the Infinite unique chest. So this chest will pull all the enemies together and stun them for a duration if we use teleport. So this will definitely give you a damage boost and you will feel it immediately if you switch to this chest. But there will be some related changes if we're going to use this chest I'll mention later. For the gloves, looking for all stats or intelligent, attack speed, critical strike chance, and also lucky hit with a chance to restore primary resource. For the aspect, we're using gravitational aspect, which is the iconic aspect for this build. I'm using the temerity unique pants. So for the unique stat here, effect that heal you beyond 100% of life grant you a barrier up to 80% of your maximum life for 8 seconds. So this in conjunction with the undying Vampiric Power, which will heal you for 3% of life whenever you cast the skill. So together with these two, your barrier will be up all the time. So this gives us a lot of defense and you will feel really safe in the Abattoir of Zir dungeons. And then if you are lacking some of the offense, T-Boss Will unique pants is another great option. So for the unique stat here, you can see that whenever we become unstoppable, we will not only get our mana back, and we will also get a 40% multiplier. So if you can manage your barrier well, as mentioned in the previous video, you can use T-Boss Will pants to boost your offense. For the boots, I'm using Astro's Heirloom unique boots. So this will give us a lot of additional critical strike chance to boost our offense. As an alternative, you can also think about using Flicker Step. The only reason of using this unique boot is that we want to reduce the cooldown of our ultimate skill. So this basically will put our unstable current up all the time. However, in this build, we're actually using a passive called the Overflowing Energy to reduce our cooldown. So we don't really need that Flicker Step. However, if you want to use that boot, you can actually change the key passive from this one into various mastery to give us 15% additional damage reduction, which is really good for defense. If you do that, I think you can put this one skill point into somewhere else that is more useful, because this is to increase the click rate for crackling energy, which is in sync with the overflow energy really well to keep our unstable current up all the time. For the weapons, I'm switching to using one hand and also off hand. For the one hand weapon, look for all stats, intelligent, mastery skill damage, and also damage to CC'd enemies. Actually, the optimal stat here should be damage to close enemies, which provide a higher damage boost. By the way, I don't have that yet. For the aspect, I'm using Conceited, which provide us 25% multiplier whenever we have a barrier, which we have all the time. And then for the offhand, I'm using this one with intelligence, critical strike chance, resource generation, and also cooldown. For the aspect, using Storm Swell to give us damage multiplier to vulnerable enemies when we have barrier, which is happening all the time. Alternatively, we can use Ahavarion unique Staff. So this will give us a lot of damage, attack speed, critical strike chance, and also chance to stun. And this unique stats actually will give us a random shrine effect if we kill kill a elite right before the Abattoir of Zir dungeon bosses. However, personally I found that it's really hard to control. Maybe someone can play this better than me. And actually for the damage wise, I think a one-hander weapon plus a offhand is stronger than this. However, if we can really control how to use the unique stat here using the shrine effect, this might be really strong. For the amulet, look for movement speed, total armor, plus rank to all mastery skill, and also I think ideally the last stat should be the cooldown reduction, and I don't have that yet. I put aspect of disobedience on the amulet, so this will give us additional armor while we're attacking to boost our defense. For the runes, I'm using Tell Russia unique rune, and also another rune with recharging aspect to get our mana back whenever Chain Lightning is casted as one of the enchantment. For the stats, look for critical strike chance, lightning damage, damage to close enemies, and also resource generation. As we go higher tiers of the Abattoir of Zir dungeons, we will be lacking some of the offense and also defense as well. So I guess, in my opinion, we should switch to Remnant of the Infinite chest to get more stun to feel safe and also boost our damage. But we will be losing some of the defense. And for higher dungeons, playing low life probably is one of the options. So for example, on the pants, we can look for damage reduction while injured stats, plus rank of ball lightning, total armor, and some other damage reduction stat as well. And also on the boots, we can find one for damage reduction while injured as well, and look for plus rank for flame shield and teleport with movement speed. And then on the amulet, we should look for total armor and also very importantly damage reduction while injured as well. And for other stat, we should either look for plus rank to mastery skills, movement speed, or cost reduction or cooldown reduction, and I don't have that ideal stats rolled yet. And together with these 3 damage reduction while injured, I think our damage reduction while injured should be, let's look at that, should be around 80%. So this is really good. And remember that we have resilience in our vampiric power to have more damage reduction from the missing life. So playing a low life should be a very good option defensively. And if we play low life, we should replace Undying Vampiric Power to either Domination to give us more damage multiplier, or Infection to basically in sync with the Tell Russia unique rune to give us more damage multiplier. This is the stats that we have currently. 17k attack power, this is the tooltip damage either way, and close to 9k armor. So this is close to the cap, 85% for physical damage reduction. But we have a disobedience aspect, which can make up for that during the fight. And around 13k life, and with all of our resistances capped. Skills, 2 point in the fire bolt, so this will be used for our enchantment. And then 1 point in devastation to be able to get 3 points in elemental dominance to provide more damage multiplier. And 1 point in chain lightning, enhanced chain lightning, and destructive chain lightning to give us a lot of crackling energy on the ground. And whenever we pick up the crackling energy together with the invigorating conduit, we get a lot of mana back. And also the crackling energy will be ticked really fast, and together working with our key passive overflowing energy, so this will reduce the cooldown of our unstable current a lot. So our unstable current should be up all the time. And go back, we have maximized flame shield, so this is the best defensive skills that we have, so this will make us immune for here 2.8 seconds, which is really good. And then 1 point into teleport, and these points are affected by the +4 rank of the Shackle helmet, so reduce 4 is actually the point we put into the skill. 1 point into the enhanced teleport, and 1 point into shimmering teleport to give us 30% damage for 3 seconds after using teleporting. This is really good. And then we don't have any point into ice armor because the shackle will give us +4. But if you don't have shackle, you should put a 1 point here for ice armor. Also 1 point into elemental attunement to give us a chance to reset the cooldown of one of our defensive skills. So this is really helpful in the fight. And then 1 point into aligned the element to be able to get a 3 point into mana shield to provide more damage reduction, and then also 3 point into protection to basically whenever we use a cooldown we get a barrier for 3 seconds based on 30% of our maximum life. So this is really strong for defensive. And also 3 point into conjuration mastery, because we are keeping our unstable current on all the time, so we get a lot of conjuration skills fired whenever we use lightning skill. So this multiplier will basically be even boosted more during the fight. And then very importantly, 3 point into Ice Veil to give us increased duration to barrier. So this will keep our barrier to last longer and also make us tanky much longer. And then 1 point into Inner Flames to be able to get 3 point into Devouring Blaze to give us a lot of additional critical strike damage, which is very good for damage. And 1 point into Static Discharge to be able to get 3 point into Invigorating Conduit to get our mana back whenever we pick up the crackling energy on the ground. Definitely our main skill, Maximize Ball Lightning, 1 point into Enhanced Ball Lightning, and the last 1 point into Wizard Ball Lightning. Of course, 1 point into Unstable Current, Prime Unstable Current, and Supreme Unstable Current. 1 point into Coruscant Current to be able to get 3 point into Electrocution, which will give us 15% damage reduction from the enemies. And lastly, for the key passive, we're using Overflowing Energy. So this will give us a lot of cooldown whenever the crackling energy hits the enemies. So this will keep our unstable current up all the time. And lastly, we also have 3 points into Fury Surge, which gives us a lot of mana regeneration after we kill burning enemies. And this happens all the time during the fight, which is really good for getting mana back. We still use Chain Lightning as our first enchantment. So together with the recharging aspect, this is really good to get our mana back. And for the second enchantment, we shifted to Firebolt enchantment. So this will deal burning damage to make the enemies burn, and we get a lot of benefit from our skill tree because of this. For the skills, we have Flame Shield, and we also manually cast Ice Blade to proc with the other damage multiplier given by the unique rain, Terra Russia, and the Unstable Current, Ice Armor, Teleport, and Ball Lightning. We use Ruby Gems on all of our armor pieces to give us plus maximum life. And then we use Emerald Gems on our weapon and offhand to get more critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies. As our resistances are all capped, so on our amulets and rings, we're using Skull. So each piece of Skull Gem will give us 250 armor, which is really good for defense. Vampiric Powers, we're using Undying to get life back whenever we cast a skill. This works really well with the Temerity unique pants to keep our barrier on all the time. We use Accursed Touch to apply Vampiric Curse. Together with Prey on the Weak, we're making enemies vulnerable. And we also have Resilience to get additional damage reduction for each percentage of life that we're missing, and then definitely Ravenous to provide us more attack speed. We made some changes to the last Paragon board, and I will leave the planner link in the description for you to read more details. So we start from starting board, getting some of the non-physical damage node and the life node, and then we use Elementalist to get some damage multiplier. Grab some of the damage load, resistance load, and going up, we're going for Enchantment Master board, and then we use Reinforced Glyph here to get more bonus from the rare nodes here, which are damage and also resistances. And then we also get 50% damage reduction where we have active barrier. And then definitely grab more damage to the elites and also non-physical damage nodes. Moving to the right, we're using the Ceaseless Conduit board, and then we use Territorial Glyph to get more damage to close enemies and also 15% damage reduction against the close enemies, which is really good for offense and defense. And moving up, we're using Elemental Summoner board and then socket in the Charged Glyph. So the crackling energy damage is really not that important, but we get up to 15% damage multiplier whenever we pick up the crackling energy on the ground. Definitely some of the resistance node and also the intelligence to meet the requirement of the charged node. And then we socket in our new Tears of Blood glyph here. And currently we're at level 8, which provides us 95% increased damage multiplier, which is really great. So we pick up all of the core stats within this range and definitely grab the damage reduction rare nodes and also those rare nodes for the additional intelligence, which is core stat as well, and then pick up more damage reduction nodes, armor, damage reduction and armor. And then we move up to the Frigid Fate legendary node, which give us more damage multiplier, and we use Adept Glyph here to get more mastery skill damage and also increase the mastery skill area. And then lastly, we move to legendary node static search to basically make enemies vulnerable as well. And then we use destruction glyph here to get more critical strike active damage and also more damage multiplier. If you want to see more content like this, please smash the like button, subscribe and ring that notification bell to never miss a video. Hope you have enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.